It has been rejected 12 times.
12 times.
This story has been rejected 12 times.
So first thing I'll say, a very big congratulations to you on being on the shortlist.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's no small feat, We had over 300 submissions, and to be in the top 5 is really something commendable. So congratulations again. Saying that, so how do you feel? How does that make you feel, like being on this shortlist?
I'll have to even start from making the long list. Yeah. I wasn't expecting it. I submitted, I think I submitted 2 or 3 days before the deadline. Because my friend was like, "Oh, there's this prize." And the story I submitted I'd been getting rejected. Like, if it's like the story fits the theme of this prize, submit. I'm like, okay, I'll just submit again. I wasn't even expecting like I'll make the long list. So when I saw the long list, I was like, wow, I made the long list. I told everybody, I put it on my WhatsApp, on Instagram, on Twitter. I made the Afritondo long list. Then that was it. I wasn't even thinking like, okay, I was going to make, because I saw the list and it was stacked. As in, there are writers there that I read and I love. I'm like, oh my God, there's Howard Maximus is here. Like, I'm in a long list with him. I was just really hyped. And then when I saw my name on the short list, I lost it. Like, okay, I made the short of the prize. And I was ecstatic for days. In fact, the sheen has not worn off. I'm still like floating on that cloud of making the Afritondo shortlist. It has been magnificent, just to say the least.
I feel
great.
That's amazing. So you said this story had been rejected elsewhere before.
It has been rejected 12 times.
12 times.
This story has been rejected 12 times.
Wow.
And that's not to say it didn't get deserved, because when I wrote the story in 2020 during the coronavirus pandemic, where we're all at home and all that. So when I wrote the story, like I wrote it in this frenzied. I wrote it in one day, one take, 4 hours. Like I was just tap, and I wrote it. And I showed to my friend, like, okay, this is good, but it needs a bit of editing. So I just did a bit and I sent it out, and it got rejected almost immediately. I think 2 days later, I got rejected. Like, okay. So all those rejections, the 12 rejections, brought the story where I kept getting very good feedback from nice editors, like, okay, we are not doing, maybe change this, change that. And I did, like, I kept taking the advice, tweaking the story, mutating it, changing, editing, and yeah, voila, I'm here.
Okay. So each of the 12 rejections had a revision to it. So the story you have now is probably very different from what you had at the beginning.
Yeah. Yes. It's not very different, but yeah, it's way shorter. It was way too long before. It was over 5,000 words before, and now it's just, I think I've cut out over 2,000 words.
Okay.
From the story, and now it's tighter in a way, because I've taken into cognizance what the editors are telling me. Like, okay, this is a good story. We like the voice, we like your characters, but this and this is not plausible. What do you think about this and this? So I just tried to, and I became more intentional from the feedback I was getting. I became more intentional with what I was doing with my writing. Okay, I wanted to tell this story using this voice. I wanted you to have a sense of place. So I became more intentional with my edits of the story going forward.
That's interesting. I guess that's a lesson for everyone as well. Like, when you get those rejections, just keep on writing, keep on tweaking, and you never know. Well, that's good. So yeah, so can you, when I got your bio, I saw that you have a degree in agriculture.
Yes.
Yeah, so can you tell us a bit more about your background and now you go into writing?
Okay, my name is Raheem Omeiza, and I just graduated last year from University of Ilorin. I have a degree in agriculture. I majored in agricultural economics too. And I'm quite a newcomer to the literary community. I'm not a big name here or like anything yet. But I've been writing since I was a kid. but it's mostly bad poetry and fiction, which I will not show anybody. Like I've been writing, but I've been writing and I've been interested in like things that are literary since like I was a kid, maybe since I was 6 or 7. I don't remember when exactly, but when I was growing up I was living with my father in Lokoja. We lived near a library, like a state library. And my father used to drop me there if I was going to work. So I just like got into books, started reading stories and all that. And I wanted to write of course, I was reading stories. So I wanted to like try out my hand, writings, compositions and all that. And I wrote in high school too. But I just started taking my writing seriously a few years ago, I think 3 years ago, basically, mostly in 2020, actually, like because I had so much time and I was alone, I wasn't doing anything. So basically, I was just reading and writing. So yeah, that's it, basically. I'm a newcomer in this space, and I'm glad to be.
So would you say the pandemic kind of got you into writing?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Would you say that the pandemic got you into writing?
Yeah, it got me into serious writing. Before I was just writing, I wasn't going to show my work to anybody. I was just, okay, I have to write this, write that. Yeah, but the pandemic got me like taking my writing seriously. And I had these friends, like we formed, in my bio, I put my stories have been published in the Story 3 Challenge anthology. It's just something me and my friends from the group during the pandemic where we wrote flash fiction stories of 500 words because we were bored. So we just gathered. Then I think, yeah, that's in 2020, I think. We gathered some of the best stories. Like it was this WhatsApp group, we write stories, then we read, we critique it ourselves, we vote. There's a vote as an anonymous vote, then somebody wins. So we gathered some of the best stories and published it in an anthology. That's anthology. So that's the only other place my writing is. This is my first major publication, this Afritondo. So yeah, that's what we're doing during the pandemic. I was writing short stories, writing flash fiction. I even dabbled into poetry, but it's not very good. So let's not get into that.
Yeah, I ask about your background because it's a very Nigerian thing to receive a lot of submissions from people that are in the same medical profession or scientists. Me, myself, I have a background in biology. So I was I'm kind of like, what would I say, intrigued more or less, like, why are we finding ourselves as scientists, and delving into writing? Is it something to do with the way our education is, where
yes.
you kind of go to university and you're not exactly sure about what to study?
Exactly what you want to study. I didn't even apply for agriculture, but that's what I got. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to, because I'd been at home before, I think for 2 years. I was trying to get medicine like everybody else, like become the doctor, make your family proud and all that. Yeah. But I didn't get medicine. I got agric. I'm like, okay, that's 2 years I've wasted. I have to do agric. Then eventually I did like the agric, especially the economics part. I'm not a big fan of agric itself, but that's why I went into agricultural economics, where I like economics.
Yeah.
I like that part of agric. So I just focused on that one and majored in it.
Okay. So going forward now, do you think you will take writing even more seriously and try to churn out more works? Or
yes, absolutely. Even if I hadn't because I like what I'm writing now. I like the stories I'm telling. I'm definitely going to take, in fact, there are jobs. I'm not working yet, but I have small online jobs I'm doing, small remote gigs. And it's writing, basically. It's not creative writing, though. It's content writing, copywriting, that kind of thing, website copies and all that. So I'm not even using my agric degree yet, even though I did graduate with a first class degree and all that. But yeah, I'm definitely taking my writing seriously because I think stories are important. And I like that I have a voice and I can create my own narratives. I can maybe fight, not necessarily activism. I don't fancy myself as an activist. I don't even like that forefront activism. But I can tell stories. I can make, as in where I grew up, I can share it with the world. Like this story now, it has this very, as in Lokoja. Nobody knows Lokoja, but like I grew up there. So I want to write about Lokoja. And if you publish it now, thousands of people or hundreds of thousands, possibly millions will know about this random place in Nigeria. So definitely, I'm going to write more. I want to take my fiction seriously.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about your choice of Lokoja. Obviously, I think you live in Lagos now.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, but you chose to write about Lokoja. And to be honest, I kind of enjoyed your description of Lokoja, and I could say it was very, very vivid descriptions and telling of what Lokoja is. And I kind of really enjoyed that. And it's kind of different because when you find a lot of stories coming from Nigeria are usually about maybe Lagos or somewhere in the southeast or the major cities of, let's say, Kano, Abuja. You don't
Yeah,
find you don't find stories set in
yeah.
Lokoja like you have done. So I was wondering, so how did your growing up in Lokoja influence this story, and how does it influence your writing generally?
It was very intentional writing about Lokoja. I wanted to write about Lokoja because I wrote that there's a small town there in the story, Hima. That's the village I grew up at. That's where I was born, like one very obscure village in Kogi State. But I wanted to write. Then I moved to Lokoja. That's the state capital of Kogi State, where I grew up with my dad and all that. My mother joined us eventually. But I wanted to write about Lokoja because I had fun in that place. It's this very hot city. In fact, it's a town. It's not really a city. But those were the best years of my life were there. As I remember everything I did there vividly, and I was trying to capture that in my fiction. I wanted to write about this place that has a really special place in my heart because I grew up there, like with my cousins in my aunt's house and all that. So I wanted to write about that place intentionally because some of my best memories are tied to that place. As in that part of Nigeria. So I wanted to write about it as an act. So it's very intentional writing about Lokoja in that story, even though most people have never heard of that place or they don't know where it is in Nigeria. But I wanted to write about Lokoja because I grew up there and like I have a strong connection with that place. That's where my childhood is before I moved, but I don't live there anymore. But I wanted to like represent what it felt like being a kid growing up in that area is. That's what I tried to do when I was writing that story.
Okay, if someone reads your story and decides to visit Lokoja, what would you advise that they look for, or where should they go to?
Sorry, I didn't quite get the last part of the question.
So if someone read your story and wants to visit Lokoja, where would you advise that they go to, or what should they look for? What should they want to see, eat, drink, do?
Lokoja is not that fun a place. I think it's mostly the people that made it fun, but they should go to Mount Patti. Like there is a mountain that like, kind of frames the town, surrounds town. If they can, they should hike. I mean, they should climb on top of that mountain and see it's a beautiful view from there. You get to see the whole like city just laying in front of you. And there are nice spots to eat. I'm not sure I remember exact places, but there are some places in Natako where they can just go and eat great food. And I like the fish in Lokoja is great. Like there is a river there, like the whole confluence state, blah, blah. So yeah, there's great fish in Lokoja too. So if the person is into fish and likes fish, yeah, good spots. You can eat fish in Lokoja.
That sounds good. Okay, I'll go for the fish. Okay, now your story. Yeah, if you had set it in Lagos, for example, do you think it will still have the same force, the same power? Do you think setting your story in Lokoja made a very big difference to the final output?
No, it wouldn't have because Lagos. I came to Lagos in 2012. I've been going back and forth. I've lived in different Nigerian cities since then. I've taken Ibadan, Abuja, but now I'm back in Lagos. But it won't have that same feel. Like the feeling I have for Lokoja and that period of my life is different from Lagos. Is just hustle and noise and downfalls and I don't. I think that has been represented in Nigerian fiction a lot. So I didn't want to write. I'm going to write about Lagos, which I will because I live in Lagos now. So my stories reflect my reality and all that. But it won't have the same aura as like writing about my childhood, just not any part, like my childhood in Lokoja when I was a kid, as in living in this like particular house with my aunts, my cousins and all that. it won't have the same feel as writing because I don't know Lagos that much. I just know the places I go out to. What I think when I think about Lagos, what I think of is stress, as in the stress of commute. When I leave my house, how do I get there soonest? So yeah, it won't have. So if I'm going to write about Lagos, that's what it will reflect. Like, okay, stories in traffic, things I saw when I was commuting and all that. It won't have that same feel of writing about Lokoja the way I did in this particular story.
In your bio, you talked about your work exploring boyhood, grief, sexuality, and the spaces between all of these things. So I was wondering, why do these particular themes interest you?
Okay, I'll start with grief. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay. Grief, because that's basically all my works, I think, from the pandemic till now, is basically they all circle around that theme of grief. Because I'd lost, as in both my parents died before like 2020. My mother, I think, was in 2015. Yeah, 2015. And my father 3 years later. So I was writing, like my fiction kind of reflects that reality a bit, even though I'm not writing about myself specifically. I'm trying to like recreate things. So because I was grieving for a long time for my parents and all that, so my fiction tends, even if I don't try to write, if I don't try to write grief, it's like somehow it takes that shape of grief. But I'm trying to like not be identified. I'm trying to branch out a bit. And about sexuality, it's because when I was in school, there's this in Unilorin, like Unilorin is very anti-gay, very straight, very, you know how Nigerians are, like Nigerian, everybody has to be told the straight line. And there was this intersectionality of people that they didn't fit. And I wanted, like, and I was friends with a lot of those people, and we talked. So I wanted to like explore what it felt like, okay, being misunderstood, not being accepted, not being, I don't know, like you don't fit anywhere, especially in school where everybody is young and supposed to be free and express yourselves, but somehow you don't fit in. So I tried to like explore those spaces too, what it means to be gay in Nigeria, to be queer, basically. Then yeah, boyhood is basically, because that's my favorite part of like my adulting is showing me Pepe. It has been like difficult and all that. So because as a child, my childhood was this really, it was almost like a fairy tale. I told you before, I grew up in this small village. As in the first 7 years of my life was spent with my mother in this very tiny village called Ihima in the eastern part of Kogi State. So I grew up with her in this like an actual village with mud houses and all that. So, and I had so much fun there living with her. And I moved to Lokoja. Like my dad was working in Lokoja. My mother was working in that village then before. So then I moved to Lokoja. So I want to preserve that in that period of my life, because and the experiences of that period of my life with other people's stories that I heard. Because that time I was very happy. I didn't have issues. And like, so I tried to write about boyhood, what like stories that some boys read and like, okay, they will relate, like riding tires in the sun, playing, just doing stuff that is fun and not having to bother about where your next meal is going to come from as an adult. So yeah, that's that's it.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. So when you saw this year's theme on spirituality, obviously you had a story and you felt the story kind of matched the theme.
Yes.
But
yes.
Why do you think that? And what does spirituality mean for you?
This is a difficult question. I didn't want to write when I saw, because even when I was writing this story, I was careful not to write a ghost story. I didn't want that. I was very intentional with that. I didn't want spirituality where like, okay, I didn't want religion either, because that's like a way of interpreting spirituality, religion. I also didn't want, I think with this story, I was trying to see what I could do as I make up my own ending of, as in when people die, where do they end up? Like the space between heaven and earth, like, did their souls go on to heaven? Or like, since I didn't quite believe in that, I was trying to make up my own like ending of what people, when after people die, people you love and you're grieving. Like I was trying to make up an sort of alternate universe, I was trying to just make up my own reality because I didn't like the reality that like where people go to heaven, but you never know people go to hell. But like, okay, so I'm just like, these people are around and maybe you can run into them once in a while. And I was very careful not to make them ghosts because I didn't want my story to be a ghost story because I've read too many of those and they've become cliche in a way. So I didn't want a ghost story.
So do you think for writers...
So that's my interpretation of spirituality in this way.
Okay. So do you think that writers writing for prizes or for whatever, forever, do you think that they need to be creative in how they approach themes when they're writing stories? Is that something you consciously try to do to find a way to tell your story about a particular theme in a way that is very creative?
No, I'm not trying. When I was writing this story, I never thought it was going to be shortlisted for any prize. But I knew what I wanted. I knew what I wanted to. I knew what I wanted my story to say. I knew what I wanted it to show. I wanted it to have a strong sense of place. Then I also didn't, like I've said, I didn't want I think it just depends on the writer, what the writer likes or doesn't like, or what the person wants to do. I don't think people have to wait for their stories to be like, right? I don't write for prize. In fact, this is my first story. This is the first prize I've entered my story for. So I don't have plenty experience writing for prizes. But I knew what I wanted my story to be like. I knew the kind of voice, the kind of one of the rejections, an editor told me to change the POV of my story. But I really liked, I felt like, okay, this person wanted, maybe she didn't quite connect with the second person POV. But I like the second person POV. Like I wanted my story when people were reading it, I wanted to feel like, okay, maybe they could put themselves into this story. Like they could just swap. So I didn't change it because I thought like, okay, this is what I want to do with my story. So yeah, I'm intentional when I'm writing my stories, but it's not because I wanted to win a prize. Just like I wanted to do what I wanted to do. I have what I want to show with my story. I have what I want to show, the things I want people to see when they read it, or the kind of narrative I want to push out. But it's not because I want my story to win a prize. I'm just intentional about what I write.
Why you used to call your story "Words Don't Remember, Humans Do"?
There's actually a very long and interesting backstory to why I said for this title, because the old title, I think part of the reason this story was getting rejected this much was because of the title it had before. It was a terrible title and it sucked. So I was just worried, like when I wanted to submit for this prize, like, okay, so my friend that sent it to me, Mustafa Inesi, and he recently won the K&L prize for last year. So he said, like, okay, this title doesn't. I'm like, yes, that I've tried, and it's something I struggle with picking titles for my work because, and like, okay, send the work, let me see. So he read the work. Then when he was reading it, he picked out a line from the story that he said really resonated with him. That okay, this will make a better title. Then when he said, like, oh yeah, this actually does make a better title, which was weird because I've read the story like 10,000 times. And I've read that line like so many times, but it didn't jump at me to use as a title. So when I just got there, like, finally I have a title that doesn't suck anymore. So I just picked out that line from the story and used that as a title. And also because it worked for me, particularly that title, Words Don't Remember, Humans Do, because the story like kind of focuses on a guy just remembering, like retelling a tale, reminiscing of his like life before, the way it was before everything went south and haywire and all that. So I figured like, okay, yeah, this title works. But it took forever to come up, and I still didn't come up with that title myself. a friend came up with that title for me because the old. In fact, I've used 3 titles for this story before. All of them were bad.
Can you tell us the titles you are using?
Okay, the last one I was using which is the least, the word that sucks the least is, I was using coping, COPING as coping. I was just like, and he kept nagging at me because it wasn't, I was telling myself, like, if somebody submits a story to me and the title is coping, I wouldn't publish it to it because what's that? What's coping?
Yeah.
So like eventually when this title came out, like, okay, yes, this, at least this has a zing to it. It works.
Okay. So can you tell us the other two titles?
Oh my God. The other two titles. The first one, which was the worst, like the absolute was the working title, the word I started writing it with was Life and Death. And I was just like, no, that's not. And it was just like, I'm not trying to write about life and death. Yeah. I was just like, it didn't work. But that was my first title. What was the second title again? I have to check. I don't remember. But then the last one before I got this new title was Coping. I'm just like, okay, this doesn't work too. But so I'm just happy that I finally have a title that doesn't give me sleepless nights because the old titles were bad. And it's something I still struggle with my fiction. Picking out the correct title, even after I finished the work, it's not isolated. It's a thing I'm trying to like just because most of the time my friends I have to send the work out to my friends, my beta readers. Okay, read it. What do you think I should call this story? Like, but it's your story. I don't know what you should call it. So like most times they help me pick out the titles for my story. And I'm trying to change that, but it's a work in progress.
Okay. No, it's a very interesting title, All Don't Remember Humans Do. And I was trying to explore more around that title with you. So around, like what you said, memory, remembrance, and spirituality. Yes. So what do you think about memory, as that thing that humans do? Is that the thing that matters the most, to our being? What does it mean to exist? If is it just memories for us? You know what I mean?
Yes, especially for this story. That's exactly. I'm glad you got like the essence. That's what I was trying to do with, and that's why I was happy we picked out that title because this story. I feel like when people die, when you've lost people and you are grieving, the only thing you have of them is your memories of them or with them. So that's what I was trying to explore in this story of like, okay, memories, like if you're mourning people, this is something is a fundamental, all you have of that person now is you can't make new memories. It's all the old ones and the ones you've made with the person. So yeah, that's what I was trying to, in human interaction and everything, like the memories you make with people are what you hold on to when those people are no more. So that's exactly what I was trying to explore with this story. Like, okay, since like it's humans that will remember you, it's the people that you know that will remember you after you've gone and all that. And it's them that will tell your story. That's what I was trying to do. So yeah, memory is very important to our beings, like with people in our like everyday experiences with people, especially when those people are no more. So that's how you can tell their stories with the memories you've created with those people.
Okay, that's interesting. That's good. Okay, so just one more story. Sorry, one more question. One more question, and you can go.
Okay.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks. I mean, it's been amazing with all your technology problem and all that.
Yeah, you've been wonderful too. Yeah. Thank you.
So, but if you're going to speak to new writers, if you're going to, if someone comes to you and say, "Tell me something." I mean, you per se wanting to go into writing, what advice would you have for new writers?
I feel like I'm not qualified to answer this question because I'm a new writer myself. I'm still a rookie. But if I was going to advise anybody, and I do sometimes, my friends, in that group we have where we write stories, and people think like, because, oh, your story is really good, I'm like, I want to be like, just keep writing, keep getting. The only way you can, people think writing is something you can just, like, you wake up, then you pay 5,000 naira, 10,000 naira to somebody, you do an online course, then boom, you become a writer. It doesn't work that way, at least for me, from my experience. It's something you get into, like, gradually. You read. I think the best way to become a good writer is from reading. You read and you see how other people write, then you get better. Sometimes passively, you don't even know you're getting better. When you get better, you can see like your vocabulary improves, your writing improves, You write something like, oh, did I write that? I like that kind of phrase. So I think for new writers that want to just get in, they should just keep reading and writing. Do it as often as you can, repeat it as many times as possibly can. Then somehow, before you know, you'll get better. Read people. And that's I read a lot of, my reading is varied. I don't read only literary fiction. Even though it's literary fiction, I prefer writing. I actually read more epic fantasy. That's my favorite genre of literature. I read fantasy a lot. I like epic fantasy. I like George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire. I like Patrick Rothfuss's Name of the Wind, The Kingkiller Chronicle, Harry Potter, yes, that kind of thing. But I struggle to write it though. I'm not very good at it yet. But I read, because like basically everything I can, as long as it's nice and it's entertaining and I like the prose style, I'm going to read it. So read wide, read extensively. Then, yeah, of course, I read Chimamanda Adichie's work too, because if you're Nigerian, there's no way you're not. Her influence is kind of, I don't know, it's massive. I love her works a lot. But yeah, just read wide, read things that are comfortable and uncomfortable to read. Fiction and non-fiction, read as much as you can. Then when you are done, right, your experience will come to bear.